Hello, smart people. How are you today? I'm recording this for you in January, when there's still this new year, new you enthusiasm, and people are still at gym. And lots of people want to start a new venture this year or change their careers. And this is a great thing because this is how we evolve and grow and have more interesting lives. But if one of the things that you're considering is launching a tech venture, then I want you to have your eyes open. I want you to have the trade-offs. I want you to know the trade-offs and then decide whether this is something you genuinely want to do. Tech entrepreneurship is really fashionable right now. This is why some people get seduced into doing it, then actually start the work, then realize how hard it is and the challenges, and then quit. And I would rather that you knew the costs up front so then you could make an informed decision. So here are 4 reasons for why you should absolutely not try to build a tech startup. First reason not to do this is that it's really, really hard. And I don't mean it's like, oh, it's challenging but rewarding, kind of like a good gym class. I mean that you will have to do things that you've never done before all the time, constantly, and with no instruction manual. And even if you join a program like Tech for Non-Technical Founders, yes, we help you, but we can't solve all of your problems. We can't give you a manual for every single thing. And also, you will face a lot of rejection. Investors will say no. Customers will say your product is confusing. Developers will tell you that your idea is impossible or that it takes ages and lots of money to build. Your friends will ask you if you're going to get a real job, or definitely your mom will. And also, you'll make mistakes in public. Your first version will be embarrassing. It might not work. It might crash. Your test version might crash when you're on a stage presenting it to investors. You'll send emails with typos to really important people. You'll pitch to the wrong investors. You'll be laughed out of the room, and you'll definitely hire some wrong people, and then you'll have to fire them, which always feels awful. And you will always be worried about running out of money. Even when things are going well, there's this constant background hum of, okay, well, this is good, but what about the next time? We can make payroll this month, but what about next month? Or what if this customer cancels? You get this contract and you're like, this is great, but now we're really dependent on them. Or what if the funding falls through? And sometimes the funding does fall through. I have seen this happen. And so when you're running a tech startup, your entire quest is survival. You are not going to dominate the market in year one. You're basically just trying not to die. And if you are the leader, then you often have to kind of present this calm, confident game face to everybody else, because you, as the leader, you have to absorb the stress. Yes, you absorb the opportunities, but you pay for those opportunities with stress and hard work. And so as the leader, you're kind of like a swan, graceful and calm on the outside, but inside you're thinking, okay, I'm trying to make it to the next funding round, or I'm trying to make it to the next corporate contract, or I'm trying to get us to the next month of revenue. And this is not glamorous. This is not like hustle culture Instagram posts. This is genuinely hard. Like, you have to do a lot of work, and it's mentally and emotionally draining. And some people like doing hard things just because they're hard. Some people like doing hard things because they want to prove to themselves that they can, or they want to prove to, I don't know, their favorite grandparent, whatever. If that's you, if you have done hard things before just because you knew that they were hard, then this might be the right path for you. But if you don't already have a track record of doing difficult things, this is not the right place to start. Starting a tech venture is not for beginners. The people who succeed have already overcome challenges, and they could be personal challenges, they could be professional challenges. Actually, it's both. So if you had a dreadful childhood with mean parents, come on in. Usually, people who succeed in creating a tech venture, they've built something from nothing before. And that doesn't, sometimes that means a business, or it could mean a great career. It could also mean building themselves up after something terrible has happened. So they failed at something and then they got back up. And they've done the thing that has scared them. So if your life has been relatively smooth and you're looking for your first big challenge, then start somewhere else. build a side business, run a marathon, do something else that's kind of on the ladder of difficulty, work your way up. Because tech startups will test every part of you. They'll test you intellectually, they'll test you emotionally, and they'll just test you physically because there is a lot you need to get done. And so if you've never been tested before, you won't know if you can handle this level of testing until you're about $50,000 in. Okay, third reason not to start a tech venture is that your sensible friends and your family will tell you to get a proper job. And they'll mean well. And they'll say things like, oh, well, darling, this is a lovely idea, but what about your career? Or I just think you're too smart to be taking this kind of risk. So let me tell you, I actually I started my first tech venture when I was at business school, and I lied to my mother for the first year of working on it. And imagine, I had worked in a private equity firm before, and then I went to the University of Chicago for my MBA. So my mother had bragging rights. She was like, my clever daughter, she's successful. And then after her MBA, she's going to work at this big company and all of these things. And I ruined it. So I knew what kind of reaction she would have if I told her that I'd smashed all of that up and decided to launch a tech venture with no experience and no money. And yet, this is what I did. So I literally told my mother that I worked for one of our investors in their family office. So one of our investors is this very impressive woman who has a family office. And I said that that's where I was working, which I mean, has a link to the truth. Let's just say it's a link, very tenuous link to the truth. Anyway, so eventually I told her, and of course her reaction was, well, if you want to be in tech, my dear, why don't you try for a job at Google? And you know what? This question, why don't you get a job at Google? Why don't you get a job at Facebook? This question has been going on for years, and it still does. And I have literally signed six-figure contracts with governments for tech for non-techies programs. But my mother would still rather that I get a normal job. This is actually fairly normal. I'm not the only person who's gone through this. The bottom line is, if you need constant external validation, if you need your parents to be proud, if you want your friends to think you're impressive, your colleagues to respect your choices, you will struggle with the early stages of tech entrepreneurship. Yes, now I get, invitations to speak at things. I've written for the Harvard Business Review, for the FT, and so on. And now I have the accolades and I have lots of external validation. But it took, it didn't come straight away. It took hard work. So if you need constant external validation, then just be aware that this is not going to give that to you straight away. And if you can't handle that, then don't do it. Here is my fourth and last big reason for you not to start a tech venture. And this is important. Basically, you will not earn well from this for a while. And if you're used to a fat corporate salary and you use your corporate salary on living really well, so you have fancy dinners and expensive trips and beautiful clothes, you will have to cut that. And this is a sacrifice, and it's not fun. I've made that sacrifice. I did not enjoy it. And so you have to be willing to make the sacrifice. And if you're not willing to make the sacrifice, this is not for you. And I've seen people leave six-figure jobs to build tech startups. And, they are excited about it. They've done all the research and, they're smart people. This is why they have this well-paying job. And they're good at managing the psychological shift because they're excited about the challenge and they believe in their idea. But the reality of life without that paycheck really sets in and it's unpleasant. So, when they can't go on the ski trip that their friends are planning, or they're used to going to certain types of restaurants and now they basically have to downgrade, then suddenly the whole thing feels kind of like punishment instead of pursuit. And if you are not willing to downgrade your lifestyle, even temporarily, you will really resent this journey. And when you resent it, you'll quit. And don't think that, I'm going to raise money and it's going to be fine. Because at the earlier stages, until even when you're raising Series A, you are not going to be getting paid a really big salary, because investors, essentially, they very rightly think that they want you to have some of the risk. So you'll have a salary that's definitely enough for you to live on, if you're raising Series A and so on. But it's not going to be the same as a big fat corporate salary that you could get in a consultancy, in advertising, or in a bank. Because the whole point is that you monetize either when you exit, or you monetize when you get those big contracts, and then you can have some of that profit sharing. So basically, if cutting back sounds unbearable to you, then don't do it.